Right now, we're going to share with you the presentation that Ray and I made to the Fitness and Welfare and Recreation Committee back on November 5th.
Yes, this is the PowerPoint that we presented to the Fitness, Wellness, Recreation Committee on November 5. And we plan to put this on the website later today so that you could look back on it if you want to, or people who aren't here can look at it. So this is our pickleball court expansion proposal. Pretty nice, huh? So the Saddlebrook Pickleball Association currently has 796 members, and SPA manages 14 pickleball courts for them. And there is definitely a growing demand for more courts. But the problem or the challenge is the high cost of building new courts and the availability and cost of property to build them on. So this was our proposed solution. Our proposal is to convert 2 underused tennis courts at Mountain View into pickleball courts. HOA 2 has budgeted $480,000 or $160,000 per court to renovate courts 9, 10, and 11. And they've already done that previously for courts 12 and 13. And the renovation is the installation of 6-inch layers of post-tension concrete over the existing covering of the courts. And this is scheduled by the board, by the HOA 2 board for 2026. And we have spoken with elite sports builders who did the renovation on courts 12 and 13, and they estimate that the cost in 2025 would be $140,000 for each court. We propose to renovate courts 9 and 10 into 8 pickleball courts, 4 on each court, and we proposed to cover more than half of the cost of doing that. So for 2 courts at $140,000 each is $280,000 to renovate courts 9 and 10 with the post-tension concrete. We also have an estimate of $60,000 to square off what they call the California corners, the angle on the corners of each court. And that estimate is $60,000. We have also researched different sound suppression coverings that can be used, and our estimate on that is approximately $40,000. So the total for the 2 courts under these estimates would be $380,000. SPA proposes to contribute $220,000, $220,000 for that renovation. And we would ask HOA 2 to contribute $160,000. And that would mean the HOA2 board would be saving $160,000 because they have $160,000 budgeted for each court. So the contribution would be 58% by SPA and 42% by HOA2. Now, how do we finance this? Well, since repaying the Ed Robeson Pickleball Center construction loans, SPA has accumulated approximately $190,000 for court expansion. And we think it's more cost-effective if the renovation can be done in 2025, just from an inflation standpoint. And as SPA did with the new courts, courts 1 through 8, short-term loans were obtained from members. Those loans would then be paid off in 2026 when HOA2, the HOA2 board paid its $160,000 that we're asking it to do, and another $90,000 in dues would be collected in that additional year.
Thanks, Ray. Now, obviously, there's a couple concerns with this proposal. We have to be concerned, how is this going to affect the tennis players? They're obviously a very interested party. We also have our friends and neighbor that live on Flower Ridge across the street from Mountain View. Let me address the tennis players first. As we know, pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America right now. And our numbers as members of SPA reflects that. In 2020, we had 686 members. We've grown by 110 since then to now 796. That's a 16% increase in 4 years. Projecting that forward, we're looking at over 900 members in 4 years, approaching 1,000. Again, why we need more courts. The current ratio of the amenities is a little bit out of whack. The tennis members have 20 courts by the HOA2 and HOA1 for 433 members, which gives them 22 members per court. Whereas for SPA, with our almost 800 members, we have 14 courts, or 57 members per court. What we're proposing is a small reduction for the tennis club, going from 20 to 18, and you'll see the members per court would be a slight increase, 22 to 24, whereas for the pickleball club, we'd go from 14 up to 22 courts, which would bring our ratio down to 36, a little more equitable. You can see on the left the current distribution, current members per court, and on the right, the proposed members per court under our plan. A little more equitable, and still, tennis goes from 22 to 24, small increase, and they still enjoy a 50% better ratio than the pickleball club with those numbers. Can we get volume turned on? This is just a couple weeks ago out at the pickleball course. It's out there. Nobody knew I was going to be videoing it. I took the video. You can see all 14 courts are used, 4 members per court, 56 people, and stacked, almost 8 stacks of paddles there, another almost 30 people waiting to play. And I explained this to the FWR people about how we do our drop-in, that you play your game to 11, you get off the court, and then you stack your paddles there, work your way forward, and then you play when you finally get your paddles there. You see, we have almost 8 stacks of paddles. If we had those 8 courts at Mountain View, nobody would have to wait to play. Speaking of Mountain View, 10 minutes after I took this video, I went over there to see how they were doing. This is Monday morning, 9 o'clock, 79 degrees, sunny skies, calm winds. Nobody there on 5 courts. Now, this is admittedly even as powerful as these videos are, they're not scientific. I know that. So it's snapshot. I'm sure there's times where there's people on the Mountain View courts, probably all 5, and we all know we don't use all 14 pickleball courts at all times. That's going to be varied. But SPA did do an analysis earlier this year in March. We analyzed the courts, both pickleball and tennis, from March 1st to March 14th. We only have 13 days of data because one day it did rain. Look at how tennis did. 13 days times 20 courts, that's 260 courts per time period that they had courts to use. And you can see at the 10 o'clock time frame, they did 79%. That's a pretty good number. They had some good usage at 10 o'clock. Rest of the day, it's a little not quite as heavy. Now, how do we do on pickleball? On the contrary, pickleball, we use those courts all day long. Our lowest is only 68% at 8 o'clock in the morning when it's still a little nippy out here in March here. But then, see the rest of the day, much higher numbers, and a total of 82%. Overall, 82 to 40%, 2-to-1 ratio difference of court usage of pickleball versus tennis. As we know, we have more players than we have courts. So what do we do to try to mitigate that for our members? For one, we have to limit our block of times to 90 minutes. Remember we played at the ranch, they had 2-hour blocks. Tennis courts, they have 2-hour blocks. We can't afford to do that. We do our play in 90-minute blocks. In the morning, things are popular, so what do? We restrict it so there has to be a minimum of 4 people per court, and we encourage all kinds of play that's open to all members. Nobody can reserve a court. Anybody gets to play in the morning. So we have to do things like singles, lessons, league play, ball machine use, and private reservations. Those are all pushed to the afternoon. Tennis is fortunate. They have no restriction at peak hours. If somebody wants to reserve a court at 10 o'clock in the morning with a tennis ball machine, 1 person on a court, they're allowed to do that. I don't begrudge them that. I'm envious of that. It's a luxury I wish we could afford. Now, the other issue we're justifiably concerned about, and that's the noise. We all know pickleball is a noisy endeavor. Pinal County has an ordinance. Legal sound limits at Mountain View, 60 decibels during the daytime, 55 decibels at night. HOA2 did a study of the noises in Mountain View back in 2015, and the recommendation was up to 12 decibel noise reduction to bring us down to the county limits noise ordinance standards. Ray was talking about part of our budget was windscreen options with noise suppression, and that's what we've been looking at. There have been several companies we've looked at, and we're still looking at some more. But right now, our current choice is AcoustiFence from Acoustablock. They have a good demonstration of some good noise suppression. And some examples, they put this up in Yuma at the County Roads RV Village, and USA Pickleball President Bill Booth showed up, and he had about the 10 to 12 dB reduction in pickleball noise. Up the street up in Surprise, Arizona, we also had the Acoustics Group, another third-party independent group, did a study of the AcoustiFence, and they found up to a 13 decibel reduction down to 48 decibels, and that's with 32 players playing on those courts. 32, that's the number we would see at Mountain View with 4 players on 8 courts. 32 would be the max we would see. Comparison of different sound levels. Blacks, the road noise in Mountain View, 35 miles per hour, we're looking at 75 decibels. The limit that Pinal County wants us to meet, 60, daytime limit. Pop tennis just makes it at 60. Nighttime limit, 55. Tennis is 55. And now with the AcoustiFence, pickleball is going to be down at 48, lower than tennis is now, okay? This looks good. Let's listen to it though. Turn the volume back up, please. Turn the volume up. Thank you. We all know pickleball is a noisy sport. This is a tournament in Florida. And the photographer is going to step behind the AcoustiFence here in a moment so you can hear the sound difference. You haven't turned the volume down, have you? Listen to this. Listen to that difference. The photographer is currently about 30 feet away from the pickleball players. The closest backyard on Flower Ridge is 100 feet away from the pickleball courts. Personally, I think this is kind of ugly. I don't like this. But what we're going to propose is something different than just putting a long wall of green acoustic material here. Now, our photographers are going to go back around there and prove to you these people have still been playing. They haven't quit while he went on the other side. Like I said, I didn't like the way that looked. I mean, we'll come up with different proposals. We're going to look at installing dark green acoustic fence on the existing fence line around the courts. They'll have to be reinforced to handle the extra weight and the wind, but we can do it on those courts. And we would do it so protect it from the tennis players and from the residents over here. There's that 100 feet I was telling you about right there. It's a distance from his backyard to the corner of that court there. And one advantage about the acoustic fence is it absorbs sound, doesn't reflect it. So the pickleball noise isn't going to be bouncing back to the arts and crafts in the HOA building. Okay, get ready?
And actually, you can get the acoustic fence kind of like a designer if you want. One option is ivy. Another option is red bricks, but that costs a lot more. Now, there are also economic advantages for the community if our proposal is adopted. For one thing, pickleball courts have proven to be a significant selling point in retirement communities, and they often boost the satisfaction and property values for the residents. Robeson is obviously aware of the selling point of pickleball, and that is reflected in his newer 55-plus active communities in Arizona. I don't know how many, if anyone else still gets the digital magazine from Robeson called Robeson Living. I still get it, I guess, because he doesn't know that I already bought a place. But anyway, this is the most recent issue. This is the cover. Is the numbers of pickleball courts at his communities. And he reviews that here in the article. We also looked at these other communities and the number of courts they have, and also the number of residences. Pebble Creek has 6,200 residences and 36 pickleball courts and 13 tennis courts. So, generally speaking, Pebble Creek has probably around 15% more residences than Saddlebrook, but they have more than twice as many pickleball courts. We look at Quail Creek, 4,000 residences, and they have 25% fewer residences than Saddlebrook, but they have more than twice as many pickleball courts. 32 pickleball courts, 6 tennis courts. And then we look at our closest neighbor, Saddlebrook Ranch, has 15 residences, which is 70% fewer than Saddlebrook, but they have 24 pickleball courts, 4 tennis courts, and 24 pickleball courts is 70% more than Saddlebrook. We also think it can be expected under our proposal that 60 to 80 hungry and thirsty pickleball players will be on the courts between 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. year-round, and an additional 40 to 50 players in the afternoon. This can create an economic benefit for HOA2 because there will be increased traffic for food and drink in the Brook and the Mountain View Grill from these players. Gilbert Zazweta, the restaurant manager at the Preserve, has told us that he observed a marked drop in afternoon and happy hour traffic when pickleball stopped at the Preserve and tennis took over. And there's also the cost savings that we've spoken about. HOA2 would spend $320,000 to renovate and convert the courts versus the $480,000 that has been budgeted. This $160,000 savings could be touted by the HOA2 about how they're economically managing the money. Ron?
Promise, we're almost done. We're here at the end here. Appreciate your patience. Conclusion, yes. Converting two pickleball courts into, two tennis courts to 8 pickleball courts is a very cost-effective way for us to increase the number of pickleball courts at Saddlebrook. It's a modest cost to tennis players. A 10% reduction to them provides a 57% increase in pickleball courts for the pickleball community. And beyond that, as Ray was talking about, the benefit to the entire community in property values, increased food and beverage income, and the $160,000 HOA2 gets to save on this. It's taking out these advantages, obviously make this conversion a valuable and worthwhile project for everyone involved.